Hello, 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 and welcome to Survivor Debrief. My name's Eden Porter, the unlucky loser from Survivor Titans versus Rebels. And with me, as always, is my comedic partner and real-life brother, Joshua Pater. Joshua, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here. We're really getting down to it now. You can kind of really clearly see the pathways people are taking. But you've been on holiday. How was your holiday, just quickly?
I will apologise for the lateness of this episode. I have been up in sunny Noosa where it rained the entire time.
Just like being back on the island.
It really was.
Were you bounty or were you barrenated?
I was barren. Just talked to my family. We were walking around in the rain out there. No, it's that hot rain though, which I don't mind being in the rain. It was very much like being out in Samoa, where you're wet but it's really hot and it's not that cold rain. You know, cold rain wasn't chubby rain either, Josh. For people that know about chubby rain. Okay. But let's get down to business. Enough about my holiday and my scraggly beard. But we're talking Survivor. Actually, I will tell you a little funny thing. When I was up on holiday at the pool, I'm literally just minding my own business, walking by, and then some woman looks up from her iPad and she goes, and I'm like, hi. And she goes, oh my God, come over, you're from Survivor. And I was like, yeah. And she goes, I'm watching Titans versus Rebels right now by the pool. Great. She was watching the Viola vote out. And she's like, I'm literally watching this in between episodes because I got into this season.
It's so realistic.
Yeah. She said, I'm watching this current season, and then between these episodes, I'm watching Titans vs. Rebels, and I then you just appeared in front of me. And I was like, yeah, that's it. She asked me all these questions. It was actually really quite funny. It was good. But we're talking about this season at the moment, Josh, and we're up to episode 19. Let's get into it.
So we're coming off the back of the Karen vote out. And obviously Zara's at a bit of a loose end, having her friend go.
Yeah, exactly. And Zara at this point why does she think everyone turned on it? Because they had too much power and they had to sort of divide.
We're too powerful.
Too much going on. And she's on the bottom of the pack now. And Miles has a really funny interaction with her, where he gives her the ceremonial welcome to the bottom pep talk. They have a special handshake. They meet once a month. He knows all about it. He's like, the coffee's over there. This is happening.
It really did sound like the kind of guy who works down in the post room on like the third basement floor of the office building. He's like, oh, hey, you new here? Come on in.
Yeah, come on in. Come on. I'll show you the ropes.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I don't think Zara is too much on the bottom, because in her mind, she's very committed to getting back with the graduates, and really trying to have that as her new group, because she has lost her quote unquote ride or die, which we'll be talking about a lot in this episode. So Zara's on the bottom, Miles giving her the heave ho. But the other thing that came up was Logan claiming the plan that went ahead to get rid of Karen last week. And AJ picks up on this, so it wasn't too subtle, where as they were leaving, Logan looks at the jury and says, this was me, I did this.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of that.
Communicating to the jury.
Yeah, you're not meant to communicate with the jury.
Neither do I. I'm not huge. I was like, that should be your speech at the end if you want.
Exactly.
And you get to say it in that moment.
You have an opportunity, but I know in her head at that point, she's feeling like, I've got to start claiming some moves, and I want to start, because it is one of those things, the first one to say it is often the story that sticks.
Yeah.
Like the first person that you hear it from is where it sticks. So it is a risk to let it go all the way to tribal council unless you have some good receipts with you. But I just don't like, you shouldn't be talking to the jury.
Yeah, they're there to observe, right? That's their role.
Oh no, they're there to roll their eyes and go,
and shoot daggers across.
That's and I would have been great. I have great facial expressions in the jury. They really missed out on some of my
And you would just roll up and just do a dozen of them. Like, there you go, guys.
Yeah,
just
there you go.
Use these as you want.
Yeah. It's very similar to when Krusty the Clown does the voice things for the doll. And he goes, ha ha ha. He does them all. He goes, that's how you do it, kid. And he leaves, and they go, okay, Krusty, we're ready to go.
Yeah. That's you. That's you on the jury.
That's exactly. That's me on the jury. What's your jury face, Josh? If something crazy happens on the jury, you show us.
I think I grabbed the people beside me and look around.
Yeah, you do that. You do the person
You know
grab.
what I would look like? I would look like Daryl Summers feigning surprise at winning a gold logie. That's what I would look like.
Yes.
Just
Now,
like, oh my
now
God.
that's a just a little reference for our American viewers will get straight away. I'm sure they definitely won't. Look up Daryl Summers' reaction face. No, let's get back into it. Let's get back into it. So the other thing I want to talk about in terms of the fallout is the leak. So who gave Karen the information? Who tried to say, look, it came out at tribal council
Yep.
that it was Kristen that did it.
Yep.
And this was her trying to sort of backpedal a little bit.
Yeah, she
How
had
did
the
you think
chat
she
with
went?
AJ and Kaylin. I think she kind of did whatever she could, but I think the more impressive play was from AJ to completely
Agreed.
accept it and go like, no worries, I respect it. It's great. It's awesome. No matter what you actually think, I think it just did the perfect job of making Kristen maybe feel like, oh, I'm okay. I did that, but they're okay with it. Because I don't think there's any way you can really justify that and
Yeah.
explain why did you tell the person who was going out they weren't gonna, like, especially when they go home anyway, and you couldn't do the move. Like, we said, just do the move. Just do the move.
Do the move. Just do the move. Because at the end of the day, AJ is his game awareness is so spot on and his
Yeah.
people awareness is so spot on that he knows you have to play. And he even did it in the moment at tribal council. He said, no, I actually respect that as a move.
Yeah,
I actually
yeah.
think that's fine. So he's thinking really fast on his feet and he just doubles down on that now. He keeps her on side, keeps her feeling that she hasn't burnt her bridges, because if people feel that they've burnt a bridge, they're way more likely to turn on them again. So if
Yeah.
she feels she still has a bit of a connection there, even if she doesn't fully buy it, I think that was the right play.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the challenges, shall we?
Yep.
So the first one was the stand on a
water
platform.
in the water, floating in the water for reward. Which
Yep.
traditionally, again, I'm like, is this not an immunity one? Like, it seems like they've kind of flipped them all the time. This
So-
to me feels like an immunity challenge.
Can I just say, I'll just get to it now, because even though it's for the next immunity challenge, the next immunity challenge is where you split it into groups and you have to hold on to, they have to carry someone through the obstacles, and then the
Yep.
4 people to get to the end round, then do the throwing thing.
Yeah.
This is a terrible immunity challenge because at this stage of the game, right? Immunity wins should be in your own hands. So if you need to win and you feel like you're on the bottom, you have that extra bit of push and drive to go, you know what? I'm not giving up. I need this so badly. And you put complete ownership into a person's soul and grit to get through it, right?
Yeah.
Once you do this split into a group thing and someone can let you down, like wink, wink, AJ looked like he was very much not putting in his hardest again for this one to make sure Logan loses because he wanted to get Logan. Terrible, terrible game design. I hated every aspect of that. It should have been the other way around, 100%.
Yeah,
and I don't know why they flipped it.
It does seem odd, like you're saying, especially in a role where you're literally being carried through. Like, you're not really doing anything. Like, how do you secure your spot in this game? I agree. It just seems a weird one. But the interesting thing I find about this balance one, it's so dependent on like the waves of the water, and it seems so difficult. I was surprised people weren't more like keeping in motion more. They were trying to stay really static. Whereas I think if you sort of bounce around a bit and kind of try and go with it and create your own distance, I think that's what I would do, which may or may not work.
You know what? You know who would have been good at this?
I do know who would have been good at this. Jesse the skateboarder.
Jesse the skateboarder.
He would have been
great at this, mate.
Big
Grinding his way to the top of this one.
victory.
Exactly, Josh. So it ends up Kristen wins this one.
In the end.
Morgan gets really far, I believe. It's up those two at the end. And then she gets
Logan.
Is Logan. Sorry, not Morgan yet. Logan, you're
Yeah.
right. Those guys get all the way through, and there's this great IKEA.
The IKEA sleep
reward.
retreat.
So not the best reward.
I don't know.
around.
A night in the bed is pretty huge.
Night in the bed's good for a bit of a sleep, but I think there's a big difference between being sponsored by fucking D-Max and
right.
and IKEA, because you can get a car or you can get a good night's sleep. And I think
that's fair. But is this quite unique in terms of the overnight stay, in terms of the sheer amount of time you're going to be spending with people? Is this quite unique?
Yeah, this is good to really build some connections and build something. And so let's just spend a moment in here, Josh, just saying, did she choose the right people? She chose Logan and Morgan. Was this the correct choice?
It's interesting because and this is sort of a theme for me at the moment, like trying to figure out what are people's pathways to the end. How
Mm,
does Kristen see herself getting to the end? And I don't think she needs to lock down Morgan. Like in terms of you're on the original Brawn's
mm.
tribe, you've probably been with them most of this game. I don't necessarily think you need to lock that in. So I'd probably I think Logan's a good pick to try and work with them. And then I don't know, maybe you pick Zara. Maybe you
I
bring
think
Zara
I,
along.
I think it's either Zara or it's actually Miles. Because
Oh
I
yeah.
think Miles is still playing a crazy game and bouncing around and trying to find different paths to the end and wanting to know. I think he sort of feels. I think he's feeling that AJ's pushed him away a little bit, and he's a little bit more loosey goosey with what he can do and get away with. So I actually think you need to break up those boys a little bit by bringing one of the other two across. So I think I would agree with you. I think maybe Morgan wasn't the best choice because being connected with Kate, they don't have a lot of options.
Yeah.
So they're going with whoever's telling them like, hey,
Yeah.
this is the plan.
And I
So
think
yeah.
Miles is quite an interesting choice because he's demonstrated that he's willing to do big stuff. So if you go to him and pitch him
Yes.
a big idea and a big move,
Yeah.
I want people to start playing and draw a line in the sand. It's like, cool, man, here's a chance. Here's a chance for another really big move, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's probably a good pick, probably Miles as well, I
Yep.
reckon.
And so then we sort of talked about the immunity challenge. It was the carry someone through. Kalen drops Kate at one point.
It was very
Just to move
funny.
the bamboo. He just goes bang and just
Almost like
yeah,
forgot he was holding something. It's
like a
"Whoop," and he's
human, a human person. He
very
forgot. He
funny.
was like, "This is just throwing it on the ground."
I did find this a little bit weird that I feel like they should have been more restricted because they were kind of like moving a bit, but they couldn't really.
Yeah,
So they were
it's a
getting
bit weird.
around. It was a weird one, I reckon.
It was a bit of a weird one, and
But
it
do
gets
we
out, and then
think, as you said, do you think AJ purposely?
yeah, I think he
It
was
looked a
not
bit.
trying.
Yeah, it
Like,
looked a
oh,
bit
we're
like
tied
going
up
the wrong
again.
way.
Oh no. Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Like he didn't look like, guys, come on, let's do this.
yeah, yeah.
And then the throwing the things at the end. Miles nearly won, and then Kalen, of course, wins again. He's getting up there and wins now. He's
Certainly
on his
is.
fourth win.
Certainly is.
Will he get to his fifth win? Yes, he does.
Yes, he will.
Spoiler alert. Again, no one is talking about him winning all the way to the end at any point. No one is talking about
Yeah,
that
it's
at all.
strange. It's strange.
What are you going to do?
It's one of those things of like when you get the chance, you kind of need to take it.
Yeah, exactly. Now, let's talk about the graduates because the graduates really want to hold together in this episode and they start calling themselves the postgraduates now. So they've got rid of.
I love it.
Do you love it? I thought you were actually going to set up a sting there, Josh. I thought there was
No,
going to
sorry,
be
I
some
didn't.
you
But
looked like you were really keen some
I did.
sting.
I have nothing. But
Okay.
the idea of like the evolution of the alliance name actually making sense is really good. I think it's
I
great.
love a Pokemon like evolutionary chain of alliance names. They've gone from like we were the preschoolers, then we were
Yeah.
the graduates,
Yeah.
and now we're almost like Blastoise. Also, like get it. I'm a Squirtle man myself,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's
I
all
was
about the
Bulbasaur,
Blastoise.
so.
You're Bulbasaur. Okay, guys, you know where this is going. In the chat, hashtag
What was your starting Pokemon?
Squirtle Squad, Squirtle
Yeah.
Squad, hashtag
Yeah.
Squirtle Squad. Starting Pokemons, people, put them in the chat. Put them in the chat. But I love the postgraduates, and I love
Yeah,
getting
it's
to the
sweet.
point of it's. I think that's really fun. So then we've got AJ. AJ's putting the votes onto Logan, and he
Yes.
wants to do this by planting some seeds, and we see through some tricky editing that he's been doing this all along. And
This is
so we
great.
actually go into rewind, and it has him walking backwards. And then it has several conversations that he's had where he's dropped, who do you think's got the most charisma? Da, 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 da. Now, I would have liked this more if it had like day stamps or date stamps or
yeah.
episode stamps. If it said like episode 6,
Yeah, yeah.
this
Day would
episode
be good.
10,
Yeah.
or like day 31, and just have them all like that. Because it did just seem that he just had
A
these
series of
conversations.
conversations. I
Yeah,
guess it's also
yeah.
dependent on the people who are still in the game and those kind of things. But it's good. It's
Yeah,
like
that's
this
true.
is a good demonstration of like I'm playing long here.
Mm.
Yeah, I think AJ's just in such a good position and really having great connections with so many people.
Yeah, and this was again AJ talking about he was the one that picked up on Logan saying to the jury like, "Oh, the current vote, that's mine. That was my big play," and he wanted to stamp that out and get to the bottom of that and say like, "No, I'm doing the things in this game." AJ does strike me as someone that really wants that ownership He doesn't want anyone to be able to come in at him and say, "Well, actually, no, I was a big part of that." He's like, "No, this was my
Yeah.
plan." And
Yeah.
I think that's maybe where some of his frustration with Miles has come from, because I am sensing a little frustration with Miles, that AJ has. That sense that I think AJ has looked at Miles as someone that he can use in the game and that they can talk strat together and they can go through. But I think Miles has got a little bit momentum.
Mm.
And now AJ is sort of having to reassess Miles as an actual end game threat now, as someone that has been on the bottom and everyone's wanted to get rid of, and everyone's like going like, "Oh, it's bloody Miles," to someone now that he's worked with AJ enough to get these things off the ground that now he could be a threat. Now Miles has to sort of go like, "Oh, I might have to deal with this at some point," which I
Well,
think is quite interesting.
and as we found, Miles also found another idol in this episode. So I think that's number 4,
Yes,
which is crazy.
insane,
And as I
insane.
said, he's used them correctly every time. But we definitely feel like I'm seeing way more AJ and Kaylin spending time together. And there's still
Yep.
these little check-ins between AJ and Miles. But I think that maybe speaks to, yeah, maybe Kaylin and AJ are a tighter pair than Miles and AJ are potentially.
Well, AJ, he mentions Kaylin is his ride or die. Josh, your favorite saying.
I think I think that phrase has lost all meaning this season. I don't think I think we've heard it too, and it's like that phrase only works if you never go against them, and it's like
Yes.
you see it to the end no matter what happens. And as soon as it's not, that by definition is not your ride or die, because you've chosen to die. Like it's just
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's become one of those Survivor lexicon words
yeah
that is now just overused to the point of it's just something you say.
yeah.
Like you say blindside, you say burning someone's, flushing an idol, you say like these things, and people.
Blindside became ridiculous in your season.
Oh,
It was. It
it's a
wasn't.
blind
It replaced the word vote out. It was
Yeah,
like
it
we're gonna
really did.
blind. They know they're going out. Yeah, but we're gonna blindside.
Blindside
Yeah,
'em.
yeah, yeah.
They will.
But they're literally seeing.
They
it
will
going.
know what's happening, but it is a blind side. Yeah, same with us. That lost all meaning in our season as well, I think.
Totally.
There's a few just little quick interactions that I thought were interesting. AJ is talking to a few of the people here, right, in different conversations, and I think what ends up happening is after the reward, Logan and the girls get together and they say, "Look, let's target Zara, and we'll still pretend like we're splitting with the boys, and they're going to split, and then we're all going to pile all our votes on Zara. Zara's going to go home." Now that plan only works if there's no more conversations, no one speaks to anyone else, and you just go with the plan. The
Yeah.
fact that they had to keep talking to each other, people were like, there's a lot of conversations happening here. Then when AJ talks to Logan, and basically Logan is fine being the split vote,
Yeah.
that to me was the point where AJ was like, no one's that okay with being the split vote.
Yeah.
And at that point, he realized something else, because she was very much, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and then we'll revote, and that's fine. And that's fine. Yeah, that's cool. That was sort of the point where AJ
Yeah.
smelled a bit of a rat.
Especially when consistently this season the split vote person has gone home because of an idol play. Like
Yes.
it's not uncommon that it's actually mattered, you know.
No, and so at that point, AJ then realizes we've got to put all our votes, we've got to keep all our votes together.
Yeah, so then you end up at this big stalemate of 4-on-4 as we go into tribal, which it's kind of like really locked in and rock solid at this point. It's just like
rock solid.
But it's just like quite clearly 4-on-4, and there's not really a lot of wiggle room and not much budge when you get there. So it didn't really feel like there was this swing vote in the middle or something maybe or may not happen. It felt like everyone was pretty like, no, we're going to go 4 here, we're going to go 4 here, which is like when you're on an even number, it's like it's hard to try and switch it up and make a move at an even number.
This is one of my Survivor rules. Survivor rule: you don't make a big move on an even number. You always make it on an odd number. I actually didn't listen to my own rules out there, and I got done on an even vote. I didn't even realize I was so malnourished. I didn't even realize how many people were, and I was like, oh no, it's an even. It's even.
Welcome to Tribal Council.
No, that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
But mathematically, it's in the favor of the graduates, because they have 2 people that will be immune, because they have Kaylin's got the immunity necklace and Zara will have votes on her. So it's only AJ and Miles. So we look at maths, and we know Miles loves maths and figures, and he sort of puts that out into the world. And it is correct. Like, they have the better mathematical.
Yeah, but I don't think you kind of look at it that way because as an individual, so obviously
Mm.
we have the first round of votes, it's a dead heat. Second
Yeah.
round of votes, 3-on-3, same again. I think for this moment, for the women on one side, it has to be if we lose this vote, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. They're just gonna take everyone else. So the choice is: do I go home potentially now on a rock, or do
Yeah.
I flip the game and roll those dice? Because I think at this point, people's pathways to the end. I don't see the case for any of Kate or Morgan or Kristen to beat anyone on the Brains tribe. I just don't see if they're in a final two, they could possibly beat anyone on the Brain side. So I think
Mm.
this is a do or die moment that you should probably go to Rocks. Even though the numbers aren't in your favor, it's still a chance I reckon you should take.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things here. I think one thing that really throws the cat amongst the pigeons is that Kate and AJ actually have a really good working relationship out there, and that in itself gives Kate an in to thinking, you know what, I could maybe make this work with AJ. If I get into a situation where it's AJ, me, and Morgan at the end, then me and Morgan take each other, and AJ goes
Yeah.
home. Like that is sort of in her head, so she still doesn't think that the four graduates will just steamroll all the way to the end, which like good on them for playing that and having that social connection there. So I still think you're right. The messaging, there's a couple of different messages that you want to put out there. One is, do you think as a group, any of you guys can beat these guys, or are
Yeah.
you better off fighting against each other to try and win?
Yeah.
100%, I think that's true. The other one, which I'm really glad Logan said, was they've all decided to go to Rocks. They are so tight. You're not going to break that. They're showing us right now how tight they are for each other. So that means that we should double down on this and we should go at it as well.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's a part of me that actually feels like AJ doesn't throw his game away for Zara, possibly.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't necessarily know if someone like AJ or Miles would go to Rocks.
I think Miles actually would. I think Miles actually would.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think AJ, and we see in the next episode, AJ is so like looking at how to lock it down.
Yeah.
How do you make the vote in a way that nothing can break it apart? So I know everyone talks a big game about, oh man, I would have loved to have gone to Rocks. I would have loved to have gone
I
to
don't want to go to
Rocks.
Rocks.
But it's great TV. It's great
Yeah,
TV.
but one of AJ's great pitches in this moment was he
Mm.
talked to them. He's like, "Do you think I will work with any of you going forward?" As you kind of mentioned, and to me, that's like the perfect because
Yeah.
you're saying, "Don't throw your game away now. There's still doors. There's still doors for you
Yeah.
to walk through on this side." And I think that they did such a good job of. And what I spoke to Logan earlier in the week in the exit interview, she was sort of saying that Kate and Morgan didn't really know what Rocks was. She didn't want to bring it up beforehand because she didn't want to freak them out, which is kind of funny because it's like maybe if you explain to them that it's putting your game on the line for someone else and then I'll be immune, it's probably not a great sell. You know, I won't. Yeah, I won't be involved in it, but you guys may go home. It's a good deal. So it's interesting. Oh, the funny thing about that as well was apparently Kristen got stung by a wasp. And so Logan was going to talk to her about it, but she got taken away because he got stung by a wasp.
No!
So she missed out the
Yes!
chance to talk because she was like, I was going to chat to Kristen about Rocks and see how that went. But yeah, I think AJ's play and pitch in this was great. And I think it speaks to his relationship building through this whole game. He's got those connections on the other side that in a moment like this, where it could be completely butting heads, there's enough there to pull them across and be like, come with us, it's going to be okay.
So I just want one more thing on just the rocks as of it all, Josh, which I know you hate as a saying.
That's how.
So people sort of forget that after the second tie, it has to be a unanimous decision, right?
Yeah.
So that means, and JLP says this at the point, he says, no, you don't just have to flip one person. Everyone now has to agree on this. And that is really interesting because the time to flip someone is actually on the second vote.
Yes.
But what always happens, and it happened in our season, and it happened here as well, the time between the first vote and the second vote is almost instantaneous. JLP goes, we're a tie, we're going to vote again, please get up and vote again.
Yeah.
And they don't give, and I wish, obviously I pray to the survivor gods every night, that I wish during that thing, I was like, hold up JLP, before we go and vote again,
yes,
I want to make a pitch right now.
Yeah.
This is the opportunity to do this. This is what we want to do. And purposely insert yourself. And you look, it's really hard to interrupt JLP. He's the game master. He's running things. And as a player, especially as a new player, you feel like you sort of can't do that stuff. But
Yeah.
then you see returnees, they become way more comfortable. George does it in episode 7 in Heroes vs. Villains, where he literally says, no, we're going to talk about this now. Like,
Yeah.
who's going to use their idol? Usually, JLP just says, who's going to use your idol? Bang. And then George sort of took upon himself to create this whole narrative.
Yeah.
But that's the point that you actually want to change people, because otherwise it becomes unanimous and it's much harder to convince every single person, which means it's more likely to go to rocks. Now, funnily enough, even though it happened in All Stars with the Little Rascals and they ended up flipping, and AK was really upset with himself that they didn't do it because they did just get picked off one at a time after that vote. The closest we actually probably got to rocks was probably my vote in Titans versus Rebels, because if Jaden hadn't flipped, Kitty was not flipping on me, and Ferris was not flipping on Ray. So we were never going to get to a unanimous decision in that point.
Yeah.
So it would have actually, if Jaden hadn't changed his vote just then and everyone had just gone, because realistically, doing the vote straight after, most of the time people just go, okay, I'm just going to vote
you
again
don't
and
really
hopefully
consider
someone.
it. Like what you're saying, you're not really considering the ramifications. So it's like, oh, we get through this, and then what's the next thing that happens?
Yes.
Like you're right. There should be more breathing room in there, just because, like you say, you can just pull one person across.
Yeah, and then we would have gone to rocks, and yeah, that would have been actually wild.
Did you? And just back to this episode, do you think it felt a little bit at the end like Logan kind of went, well, they're not going to do it. It's not going to happen. Let's look, guys. Just give it away.
I felt Kate and Morgan. I think they got to the point where they sort of realized what was going on, and was just like, look, the boys didn't buy into it. We faked it out. It didn't work. We're not doing it. And then I think that only left Kristen there. And I think she was about like, oh, I'm not going to be the only one. Okay, I'm going to flip over. So I felt maybe Logan saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
And didn't want to go to basically, you have to go to rocks. This is right.
Yeah.
Berate. So even though it is only one person, you just need one person to have it back.
Yeah.
Like, I do think the correct tactic with rocks in the discussion period, right, is always, as a group, you need to be the first person to say, we're going to rocks. This side's going to rocks. We don't care. We're 100% going to rocks. Because you put all the onus on the other group then to make the decision on whether they want to go to rocks or not. Because you have already put it out there. You're saying, we are all definitely going to rocks.
It's like
so now, even if you don't want to, you put it out there, so then the pressure's that's the starting point, and that's what you got to do. And AJ did it. He knew exactly what's right.
And then unfortunately, we decided to send Logan home.
Logan went home,
and that was the end of Logan's story.
Sweet Logan.
Sweet Logan.
See you next time, Logan. We loved having you there. Thank you very much. And now on to
it's very sincere and personal.
No, she was.
We love
great.
to have you there. It's great.
No, it's great. Thank you very much for your hard work. This redundancy package will be very lucrative. No, I liked Logan. I think
she had a great run.
I actually think her time without Laura, I think like when they were separated, they were quite. They were both dealing with their own sort of things and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I thought it was quite fun. Yeah, she was a fun character, I felt. Yeah. Episode 20.
Yes, so obviously Logan's just gone home. And then we sort of have the broad thing for this is Miles sort of instigating Operation Lockdown, where they're just
Operation Shut Your Pie Hole, Josh. That's the name of the episode.
Well, I heard Operation Lockdown, and that's what I wrote, because I love a lockdown. And there's just the idea of going silent and not
Dan Andrews over here.
I am from Victoria, everybody. I lived in Melbourne in 2021, 2020. Yes. So love a lockdown. Love a cheeky lockdown.
Love it, yeah.
So this idea of going silent, and that sort of permeates a lot of the episode, which is quite interesting. Again, we sort of have this idea as well with Kristen of making the move at the sort of wrong time, and she's just kind of in this no man's land now. It really feels like the weight is against them. It's the graduates with the others. It's sort of attached. It just feels like the next few episodes just going dink, dink, dink.
Yeah, it is one of those things that what Logan has said is coming to pass. Logan said they'll just pick you off. They don't care about you guys. And it is literally happening now.
Yeah.
It feels like they've just had a conversation. They said, there's nothing you guys can do now. We're not talking to you anymore. and we're just going to vote one of you off. And that is so demoralizing, and it is there to try and break your spirit. But
Yeah.
interestingly enough, Miles is only okay with this again because Miles has the idol.
Yes.
So first of all, he knows that he has the idol and that there's probably not another idol out there. So he's safe in that knowledge. And then second of all, if they do find a second idol and play it, then he will wait for them to play it. And then once they play it, he will play his idol and
For
he will be
himself.
safe.
Yeah.
So he can just go, yeah, just dump them on one person. It's fine. It's not the end of
Yeah.
the world. But AJ, this whole episode to me comes down to simple versus strategic, like easy versus complicated.
Yep.
Miles wants to keep it really easy and put it on for the reasons that we've stated. And AJ wants to lock it down, make Morgan and Kate split their vote as well. So it becomes 3-3-1.
Yep.
And that's how they want to move forward looking at that. And AJ, good on AJ for coming, because I always tried to do this as well in my plans. I tried to do it in a way and split it in a way that no matter what they did or who used an idol, we were still going to be okay.
Yeah.
And that's what you always want to try.
But
and
I
do,
think it's good to include them, even if it is a bit of a foregone conclusion. Like, we're not going to work with them going forward. I think it makes them work less hard if they think they're in on something. They're not going to be so rabidly trying to change it and mix it up and do all this stuff if they go, well, at least I'm part of this new plan with AJ. So rather than being like, we've been completely stonewalled here, we're just going to scratch and scrounge and try and get whatever the hell we can. I think bringing them in is a better idea.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Should we get to the immunity challenge?
Let's just get to the challenge. We didn't have a reward challenge. Can't afford it. Straight to the immunity. The IKEA budget's been blown.
Yeah, they've pulled out.
So this is the torture rack one. I think Kate references the movie Saw in this. Good on you, Kate. Putting your arms up, and then literally they start the water torture.
Yep.
And I'm not using literally figuratively. I'm using it. That is what water torture is. You put a thing over your face and you get water. It is water torture.
Waterboarding. It's different to waterboarding. Let's just say that. It's not that bad. It's not quite that bad. Not to get too serious about different types of torture and how bad they are. Anyway, great fun.
Keep it light. Keep it light.
Keep moving. Keep moving. Yeah, Kaylin again just looked complete zen during this. Didn't budge. Didn't move.
Dude, he looked scary good in this.
The other interesting thing I think about this was we saw AJ jump off really quick, and it made me think, as we've seen in a lot of challenges, AJ playing a bit more strategically. I think, and I'd be interested to know what you think, Eden, that AJ is purposely dropping out of these endurance ones early because he's like, I don't have a chance to win it. I'm not going to win it. I may as well just jump out and no one sees me as a challenge threat. What do you think?
I don't even think it's the fact that he's thinking, I can't win this. I actually think he is purposely playing the long game. He's going, no one is saying my name right now. I do not need to be targeted. And if people see me as crap at endurance challenges, they're more likely to be more comfortable with me going to the final three with them. And a situation like a Kate or a Morgan or some of these will go, hey, we can beat AJ in the final three because we've beaten him in all these endurance challenges. And I think that is playing the long game. This is reminiscent of Tyson pretending that his arm is really sore in blood versus water. So he's not targeted for these reasons. And we all know that the last is an endurance challenge. That's the very last one. It's balancing on the pegs. It's hands on a hard idol. So get it to the point where you think you can beat someone really easily and they pull it out of the bag. I honestly think AJ is playing the long game here, and good on him again for doing that. It's pretty amazing.
And then we had Kaylin win.
Who won? Who won this one?
Kaylin.
Never heard.
You're hearing that voice a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Amazingly, like same record with Brooke in All Stars now with 5 immunity wins. Shout out to the fact checkers out there.
It's crazy. I'm like, surely at this point now, the first one Kaylin loses, you have to get rid of him, right? Because do you how much weight do you think the jury puts on a challenge streak?
I think
if you've won 5 and you've broken a record, is that enough of your resume to be like?
It depends who you're up against, man. It depends. If someone's played a really good game and they've been making moves and doing stuff, I don't think a jury is going to say, yeah, but this guy's won way more challenges than you. I just don't think that's where Survivor is anymore. I think maybe 10, 15 years ago it was, and it could get you through. But again, if you're with someone that's maybe middle of the road, that's done a few things, and you've played a nice game and people have liked you and you've won challenges. The thing is, Final Tribal Council, and I say this a lot, people are looking for a reason to vote for someone they like,
Mm.
but they want something to hold on to. So if you're sort of likable and you can go, look, I've won more challenges than anyone else in the history of this game. I've shown myself physical. Maybe that's just the one thing that they go, yeah, I actually like Kalen as a person. He's really nice. And that's the thing he's giving me to vote for. So I'm going
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
And that's giving them something. So I think that could be quite good. But
Yeah.
it's insane that for the majority of this game, he has been immune. And
Yeah, it's a lot.
You just haven't been able to vote him out at all.
But his name hasn't really been coming up though.
At all.
Like I think he's got pretty rock solid alliances, and everyone's very happy to keep him around. I don't know if everyone's keeping him around as a shield, and they're getting to the point of we've got to cut him loose now. So we could see that in the next few episodes, I reckon.
Well, I think AJ's ride or die-ness with him, I think, comes down to the fact that they're in a situation where Kalen actually thinks that he's more likable than AJ and he could beat AJ. And
Yeah.
AJ probably feels that he's done all these moves and he's going to lay it all out and everyone's going to say like, yeah, AJ's played the best game and he's going to win. It's that perfect combination where both people can probably think that they can beat the other person.
For very different reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, very different reasons. Yeah. So let's get into the scramble of it all.
Hell.
No, not of it all. AJ wants to tell Morgan and Kate to do the 3-3-1.
So this is
and
really funny because he
has
was
this
like,
conversation.
yeah, he has a conversation on the beach with Morgan and Kate where he doesn't want to directly say, hey, vote for Kristen, but he does everything but. He's going, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. I think you guys should do something. And I do find Kristen very annoying. And they just did not pick up on that at all in any way.
So one thing, Morgan, not does she not pick up on it, but she cracks the shits in that conversation and goes, if you're not going to talk to us, you're not going to tell us anything, then we're going to leave. And then she leaves.
Yeah.
And then Kate is just looking at him being like, okay, yeah, I don't know. And AJ is sort of is doing everything but say, this is who we're voting for. This is who you should vote for. But I've got to say, at this point, he is doing this right because in his brain, AJ wants to be able to justify if this blows up. He wants to be able to justify and say, "Well, I actually didn't tell them. Did I actually tell you who we're voting for? No." But that's semantics. That doesn't matter, man. Like if Kate goes, "Oh yeah, we were told to do this because AJ let us know," and AJ goes, "Actually, technically, I didn't. Technically, I didn't say that." People are just going to assume it anyway, and it's sort of redundant. So you might as well just tell her.
Yeah, I think it would be really easy to be like, yeah, well, you maybe didn't explicitly say those words, but you let us know. How the hell did we know otherwise? You know, and I think everyone would understand that and buy that.
Yeah, I think the fact that it didn't come out of your mouth is not going to save you like massively at the end of the day.
No, I could kind of see what he's doing, but I agree. I think it's again like just do the thing.
Just do the thing.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Now, there's another group conversation here where AJ's sort of talking to them and he is sort of saying about this split and everything. And then they're worried that if the split goes wrong, that then out of nowhere, Kaylin says, yeah, that's okay because even if that happens, we'll still have numbers. And then Zara's like, no, they all vote for one person. And then all three of them put votes on someone. And then one of us could go home if we do a 2-2 split.
Yeah.
And then he goes, oh, yeah. I get it. And I just want to ask you a question this now. So Kaylin has talked up this big, I'm actually really smart. JLP, don't tell them how smart I am at all this sort of stuff. And yet the editors consistently do show us him making these mistakes and being like, oh, what? Oh, what? Do we actually? And to me, that's not him pretending to not get it. That's him in the moment saying, like, he's not that good an actor. To then go in that moment, go, oh no, it's okay because of this, and then someone going, no, they then we can't do a 2-2 split because they 3 votes then sends one of us home.
Yeah,
goes,
it seems pretty off the cuff. It doesn't feel like a considered. I'm gonna sort of lay this out like I don't know what I'm doing. So it's interesting again to see something like that from Kaylin, which we've seen consistently.
And I think the editors are doing this for a reason. I think this is a non-winning edit.
Yeah,
like I honestly think you wouldn't put them in. If you wanted to play into this narrative of that he's a super smart guy and he's pretending all this time, I don't think you put these bits in.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to talk about quickly is Kristen's pitch to Zara. She was pitching AJ to be like, hey, let's do something. Just as a little aside, I find Kristen talking strategy The voice and tone she has is really weird. She's
What do you
like
mean?
really chipper and chirpy. You'd be like, we could do something good here and maybe mix it up a bit and do this
There
kind
was
of thing.
there was a bit of that.
The energy of her strategic chat is just it just doesn't click for me. It's really weird. But
But
the big thing I think she missed in this pitch to Zara,
mm,
at no point did we see her being like, you can't. Do you think you're going to beat AJ at the end?
yeah,
And I think that needs to be drilled in more at this point in the game when you're trying to get these people to flip over to you. Really drill into the idea of like, do you think you can beat them? Obviously, you don't go too hard to the point where you're insulting that person to be like, you've got no
correct.
chance against him. You've
Yes.
sucked. You've not done this. So it's
Yeah.
a really fine line. But I think you need to highlight the fact of have a think about this person and really think about what's your pitch look like against them compared to some of us on this side.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, and I just want to make the point right here and right now. They're asking Zara to flip over to them, and this
Yep.
comes up because then she's flipping over to a tight two and a single, right? That could become a threesome quite easily and just vote you
Yep.
out. So she goes to the bottom of this other group. And this is why I just want to bang on about this just for 1 second. This is why you have to put in social work capital with people. Social work. You have to put social work in with
You
people.
have to put social work in with people.
No, you have to put in this social capital work with people throughout your time on the island with them. So when it comes to these situations, they do not feel like they're joining the bottom of a group. They feel like they're joining you to do something against someone else. So for this
Mhm.
situation, you need Zara to feel like you're not just coming to her saying, you should come do this, which is what they were saying.
Yeah.
You need to be like, hey, come over here. And then you and me, like, I don't care about Kate and Morgan. There are two, so I want to get rid of them as well. But if you come over here now, you and me can do something. And then if you could bring in Kaylin, then us three could then vote out the girls and those two, because I don't think we're beating AJ and Miles. And you create like a little bit of a network there, and you
Mhm.
seed a story. But you cannot do that if you haven't had a relationship with people and you just say, you should do this now because it's a
Yeah.
big move. And people keep
Yeah.
doing this again and again and again. And it's so, they have not put in the time. And again, we keep coming up to this. AJ has put in the time with people to make them feel like they can
It's
work with him.
it's so clear the way that he has built really good connections with everyone. Like it stands in stark difference to as soon as you like as you're sort of saying, as soon as you see someone trying to talk to someone new, it's just dead at the first step. Whereas like anything with AJ, it's got a little bit of legs, it's got a little bit of momentum always because it feels believable. But yeah, it's a really good point that what are you inviting? And this comes up a lot in tribal. Like, yeah, is the point to switch across to the bottom? Like you gotta build it up more than that.
Exactly. And they're talking about putting the votes. So the three girls are talking about putting their votes on AJ originally, right? But
Yep.
then they flip it to Miles. And
Which I find
the reason why is because Miles won't have anything to use, will he? The one person that has used more idols and found more idols in the entire game. I thought that was such a weird line and thinking to have, don't you?
Yeah, he's consistently had the most and used them correctly. Unless they're like, there's no way he's got a fourth. There's no way he would have another one. But I think the pitch needs to be less about idol security and more about what's the really good sell that you can get
Yeah.
someone behind. And we're so close to the end now. What is the story that you tell that gets them to go along with your plan? I think that's the key. I think the idols matter a lot less at this point. I think it should just be
I
like,
think, but the thing is, Zara, they only come to the conclusion at Tribal Council where they sort of say to Zara, what about if we did Miles? And Zara goes, yeah, Miles would be better for me anyway, because she's got a better connection with AJ, it seems, and that she would rather get rid of Miles. And so in
Yeah.
that sense, should you not have you been pitching Zara, like, who do you want to do? We'll come with you,
Yeah.
mate. You tell us. If you want to do Miles, we'll tell us. But you pitching the wrong person to her and her not really wanting to buy it, like that's just people that just not sure how to sell in that situation,
yeah.
which makes it really
should
tough.
we get to the tribal?
Yeah, let's get to Tribal.
So yeah, again, we had sort of these speeches, Kate being like, you got to make a big move, everybody. And to me, I'm like, this kind of rhetoric during tribal, I'm like, it's too late at this point.
It's too late.
I don't think the idea of making a big move, I think you really have to have set that up earlier in those discussions. And to me, right now, it's not about a big move. I don't think big moves is the pitch at this point in the game. Unless you've done nothing, I think the pitch is who can you beat?
Yeah.
Who, like, to
It's
me,
end
that's what it
game.
should come down to.
It's
Yeah.
end game. And we'll after we do this, we'll do a bit of a who can beat who thing. But in this situation, what annoys me is when people say, make a big move, do a move, do something. Their move is getting rid of one of you. Like that's their
Yeah.
move,
Yeah.
and that's what they're
Yeah.
doing, and they're securing themselves in the game, and it's logical and it makes sense in their world. So you've got to really pitch. Miles, I'm telling you right now, every single person on the jury thinks AJ's played a better game than you and will
Yeah.
give it to AJ over you. I'm just telling you that now in case you don't realize it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you might need to do something to separate yourself further, or do the
Yeah.
same thing with Kaylin. Say, mate, you've won 5 immunities, but you have not made a move. Again, these
Yeah.
conversations need to happen before tribal council, though. Like,
Yeah, I think that's to break them up now because they seem so rock solid. You really need to be working that angle of who you can beat.
because why did sorry, you go.
No, go ahead.
So I was just going to say, why did Zara stand up and talk to them
Oh my god, that was crazy.
and then not do anything? I don't know what
to
came
me,
out of that.
yeah, to me, it's like the only reason you should be standing up and taking that chat is if you're going to do it. And surely you've explored every option before now anyway. I don't understand what new information is on the table now at this tribal all of a sudden that you want to entertain this, because all you're doing is demonstrating to your alliance, yeah, I'll willingly work and do a live tribal flip with them. Like,
Yeah.
you're not, at this point in the game with the numbers the way they are, to me, there is nothing to be gained. There's no information that she could get.
There's one
the numbers
thing.
are so
There's
low.
one thing. There's one thing that could gain, and this is 4D chess style. And I would love to know whether this was what Zara was thinking. If you go, AJ or Miles might have another idol, and if I do this, this could freak them out enough to play their idol, burn their
Oh, yeah.
idol, and then I
Yep.
still voted how I was going to, and then I can come back to them and say, "Oh, I just wanted to. I was just trying to lead them on a little bit. I was never going to do it, and I didn't in the end."
I thought they maybe had an idol and they were going to say we're going to play
Yep.
it on da-da-da.
Yep.
That's a really good point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I
if
would
you
love
could
to
sort
know
of
if that
scare
was
them a
the.
bit.
I would love to know if that actually was the play, and even if it wasn't, you can say that now. I put that out there. You can claim it was your play
You could
and
take
sound
that,
really
you could
good.
take that.
And sound really good. And then Miles and Morgan had a really interesting conversation where Miles, and it's really funny because I was having this exact conversation with Rachel watching this episode, where I said, "Well, no, the people in control don't really need to pitch to everyone else. It's the person that is in the minority that needs to pitch." And then that is verbatim exactly what Miles said. He says really calmly and cleanly. And they're getting this back and forth about, well, you didn't give me a name. Well, I don't need to give you a name. Yes, you
Yeah.
didn't give me a name, so I didn't give you a name. It's back and forth. It's a little bit tit for tat. But at the end of the day, yeah, it is up to the minority to say, hey,
Yeah. What are you offering?
This is the plan. Otherwise, they're just going to go with what they're. But I get the frustration 100%. When people lock out, it does feel like no one's playing. When you just say, don't talk to these
Yeah.
people, don't talk to them.
Yeah.
Everyone lock it out. Like that is Boston Rob style, and it is really hard to play against.
And
It's
I
not
think
fun.
this sort of speaks, to me, I think this sort of speaks to AJ's correct call to pull in Kate and Morgan, because the amount of work we still's happening at Tribal, pulling Zara over, I'm like, surely that all gets dissipated in some ways if you just quite plainly go on to them, hey, we're going to go on Kristen, get on board, and you guys will make it through another vote. I think that the amount of work we saw happening and the fiery nature of it, I think that definitely plays into that idea of Miles wanting to keep it simple, and that shut down that lockout.
Yep. Yeah. Ultimately, they don't. And then Zara doesn't flip. And she says in her voting confessionals, you took the wrong person on the reward, which is wild because in the other episode, I think she has a confessional where she says, I've got plenty of beauty parlors in Brisbane that I can go to that I don't need to.
Yeah.
And then, and obviously she was thinking about it, which is quite funny. But it's a killer line, Josh. It's a killer line at the end there.
Good.
And Kristen goes home.
Kristen goes home.
Yeah. Rest in peace.
One thing I wanted to chat about, just in terms of the state of the game as we're getting down towards the end of the season, I wanted to actually chat through everyone's pathways to the end and who you think they could beat. Because I find that to me is the most interesting thing. Obviously, from what we've seen and what they've experienced on the island is very different.
Yeah.
But from what we've seen so far, I see it very difficult for anyone to compellingly beat AJ, I think. I think
looking at the lay of the land, I would agree. I think AJ beats any combination of people in this point in the game. And he only has to be at risk if the graduates... I think there is some combination where Azara and maybe a Kate that's left over or a Kaylin, take him out at some point.
But let's just talk about who they can beat.
Yeah. So AJ can beat
So
everyone.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think Kaylin. I think he probably beats most.
I don't think he
Miles.
beats Miles. I actually don't think he beats Miles, and I don't think he beats AJ. I actually not even sure he beats Zara.
Surely.
I don't
Because
know,
they've
man.
kind of been in the same, but they've kind of been in the same alliance anyway. And Zara's lost hers, whereas Kaylin's kind of been in that core graduates group and won a lot of immunities.
But
so
I actually
Zara's
think,
probably done more. Right?
I think Zara is smart enough to use his winnings as an actual disadvantage and not an advantage, and say he didn't have to scramble. He didn't have to play the game. He was immune 5, 6, 7. We don't know how many more he's going to win. 7 times in this game because he's a strong guy and he's good at challenges. He didn't have to do anything. I did everything. I didn't win anything. I actually think that could turn around. And I think the Coven votes for her, could vote for her at some point.
Yeah.
And they could get involved. So I actually see Kaylin really needs to go to the end with Kate and Morgan.
Yeah.
To lock it in, to definitely win.
So speaking of Zara, who do you think Zara can win? You've just sort of said Kaylin.
I think he beat Kaylin. I think
Morgan and Kate.
She definitely beats Morgan and Kate. Does she beat Miles? Maybe.
Tricky, because I feel like Miles has been on the bottom for so long, and I think he'll weave that narrative so well of I scran. And if Zara's sort of pitching a similar idea of like I was in danger a lot, I lost Karen, I had to scramble. I think Miles did a better version of that.
Yeah.
So I think maybe that might be difficult for her, and I think AJ beats her. So I think maybe it's just Morgan, Kate, and Kaylin
that she beats. Yeah. Miles. Who does Miles beat? I think Miles. I think Miles beats a few people, actually.
Yeah, I think he'd beat.
I think he beats everyone but AJ. Maybe. Yeah, him and Zara are very hard. Yeah,
they're probably similar games. Yeah.
Which is why
Kaylin, I don't know. We just haven't seen the moves from Kaylin, right? He's kind of been in the right areas, but it's hard, you know.
I just think Miles has a better story than Kaylin.
Yeah, for sure.
At the end of the day,
you're right. It's a much more interesting story,
and I think he definitely beats Kate and Morgan.
What about Kate? Morgan.
I think Kate needs to be there with Morgan. Kate needs to be with Morgan. Unless, look, Kate could have... No, but see, the jury is there's so many brains on the jury, though.
Maybe she could weave a yarn about all this stuff that happened early on in the game.
Yeah, she's a yarn.
Oh, no, all this stuff happened.
She's a regular...
The Nash vote was all me.
Kirby's yarn world. Yeah, good. I think, mate, look, there's a possibility if she has a really strong last couple of episodes, like if she somehow pulls off the AJ vote out, if she gets together with Zara and they do something, I think there is a world where she maybe beats Zara, but maybe not. Again, it depends. She has to do a lot in these last couple of episodes. You'd have to do a lot of moves, and then I just think Morgan's drawing dead.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
But also I think the thing is, her and Kate seem so the same because they've been such a rock solid pair the whole way through, and we've just seen more from Kate, and it feels like she's done a bit more than Morgan. So based on that, I
feel like Kate's had the relationship with AJ that's really helped them as a threesome, and so Morgan hasn't had that relationship. So, but again, their only option is to take each other to the final two.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think you could risk it with anyone else.
Yeah. Should we spin and grin it?
Mm-hmm.
I think AJ's got to be at the top of the table for spin and grin again, don't you?
Absolutely.
Spin and grin.
There we go. I think he has to be. I think he's in a really good position, and he was really controlling what he wanted to have. Even though him and Miles came to a bit of a stalemate. With Miles was sort of telling him, no, we're just doing the simple thing, AJ, stop being complicated. I still think AJ has enough control to move forward.
So do I. He's got enough relationships with everyone,
but let's give Kaylin one vote for winning 2 immunities back to back, I think.
Yeah, and having 5 now, that's pretty good.
Spin and grin.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And then who ruffled feathers, Josh?
It was to rustle feathers, ruffle feathers.
Who's doing this?
I don't know. It's pretty tricky because we're kind of like, there's not too much craziness.
There's not too
happening
much
anymore.
ruffling, is there? Realistically,
No, because I think unless you're fully flipping over,
no one fully.
well,
flips.
from this episode, is it Logan perhaps because she was in the middle of
I think
the
she
rocks
nearly made
discussion?
everyone go to rocks. She sort of
Yeah.
put it up there. I'd give her 2 points. I'd give her two
All right,
feathers
let's give
to Russell.
Logan. Let's give Logan a couple of those.
You said Russell feathers.
Thank you. And then
our single, maybe Morgan, because we saw 2 blow-ups from Morgan. We saw
a
the
little
AJ
bit. Yeah,
blow up
we
on
saw a
the
little bit of.
beach,
Yeah,
and then we saw
Miles.
the other blow-up with Miles.
yeah.
So maybe
let's
we
give
give
it.
one.
Let's give one to
Morgan.
to Morgan.
You
there.
said Russell feathers.
Oh, thank you there, Tyson. Thank you.
Thank you.
That pretty much brings us to the end of these 2 episodes, Josh. First of all, thank you so much. We're coming to the pointy end of the season. Thank for the people that have been with us along this way. We're up to over 200 subscribers. I know, small goals.
On
You've got to
YouTube.
start somewhere on
That's
YouTube,
great.
and it's growing.
awesome.
So just tell your friends to subscribe because it does make a big difference. A lot of the algorithms are all based on comments and subscribing numbers now. So please leave a comment, subscribe, tell your friends to subscribe, and we'll just keep
Just
growing.
share the clips
Share the clips. Keep
that we
getting
pop up.
momentum out there, guys. It's been really good. Remember, share your starter Pokemon in the chat. And anything else you want in the
Engagement
chat?
in any way whatsoever.
Anything else in the chat? Honestly, we love questions coming in there. We try and get to all of them with just a little response and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So if anyone has questions about, I know casting is open at the moment. Anything about that or anything in there, chuck them in the chat, and I'll get to them when I can. But yeah, we love
and we've
that.
also just launched a Instagram account for the show as well.
Yep.
So we'll start cross-posting with that, so you can follow that if you just want to know exclusively about the show.
If you don't want to
not
see me
about
in Noosa
Eden's
with
holidays.
my kids.
If that's less interesting to you.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, obviously reviews go a long way to boosting the show as well. And thanks so much to everyone who's been doing that stuff. It's been awesome to see and awesome to engage because podcasting is such a one-way thing. So it's lovely to have a bit of engagement and interaction with you folks.
Love it. That's it. That's the episode, guys. We've then got 4 episodes left, if you can believe it. So we'll see you next week. I promise you we'll not be late next week. We'll be right on top of it. And then we've got the finale coming out. See you later.
Bye.